So let's make some tomato sauce. This tomato sauce is pretty easy to make and pretty straightforward. So what we're going to do is start with a saute pan, get it hot, and add 2 tablespoons of your choice of oil. It could be olive, could be avocado, etc. Once that gets a little bit hot, and normally we would wait for it to be really hot, but just a little hot, you're going to add your onions. And I'll cover why we're going to add the onions where the oil's not screaming hot yet. One is for safety, but 2 is for color, and I'll address that. So once those start sauteing, you're going to just take and add a pinch of kosher salt and sprinkle it from side to side, end to end, and start seasoning. Start layering your seasonings, and I think you'll find that it helps you develop a little bit broader and a little bit better flavoring final product. The other thing that does that, salt helps pull the moisture out of the onions and helps the onions caramelize better. So instead of them getting soggy, we'll get some color on them. Now, as these cook, let them sit, let them start to go translucent. After these have cooked for about a minute, hit them with about a pinch of cracked black pepper. Now, I had a little bit of hard time getting into this, so you'll see me, it looks like I'm putting 3, but really it's just 1 large pinch of cracked black pepper in there. The reason you put the pepper in now is pepper is dry, and we want time for it to warm up to kind of hydrate a little bit. And what's happening is that liquid's coming out of the onions, helping hydrate that pepper, that ground pepper, and then the oils from the pepper will impart the flavor into our overall mix. If you just add pepper at the very end, really you're just getting a topical flavor of the actual pepper. So this way it cooks and develops a little more flavor profile to the actual sauce. So next we're going to take and add some minced garlic. This garlic that I'm adding is really super fine, and because of that, you want to be careful because garlic has a lot of sugar to it and it can burn on you fairly quick. Because of that quickness and that sugar, I'm going to take it to where it's about a minute out before I add the tomatoes to it. This is going to give time for those onions to develop a little bit of color and the garlic to also do the same, kind of caramelize a bit and pull the flavor out. Now, I like to take my onions and get a little bit of caramelization color to them to add a richness and deepness color to the actual tomato sauce. And in fact, this little technique, if in the summertime and in the springtime where there's more sun out, especially in the Pacific Northwest, I like to take my tomato sauce and I would go right about now. There's just a little bit of color on those onions and go ahead and put the tomato sauce in. But I'm going to take them just for a little bit more, just so I can grab a little more caramel color from those onions and then put the tomato sauce in. You certainly could go longer and develop that flavor a little more and even pull a darker color. So at this point, I'm adding 14 ounces of Plum or San Marzano tomatoes. And these are a canned tomato that have been, I pulsed them with an immersion blender. You can put them in a blender. You could even just chop up the tomatoes. And now I'm going to bring these together. As this comes together, I'm going to bring it up to a simmer. And once it's up to a simmer, I'm going to go ahead and throw in about a tablespoon of basil chiffonade. Basil chiffonade, the chiffonade is just the cut. So long, you could chop it. If you don't have fresh basil, you can sub out 1 teaspoon of dried basil. This is going to sit here and it's going to simmer for about 20 minutes. But when I simmer it for 20 minutes, if I did it without it being covered, then it's going to reduce to nothing and be burnt. So what I do in this is take this, bring it up to the simmer, stir it around, hit it with a little bit of salt, and grab some seasoning on that top flavor. So that top amount. So that way it builds that flavor profile. And now I'm going to reduce it down. Those sugars will come together, the salt will come together, that pepper will impart, the garlic, the onions, etc. And it'll build that out. If you were to simmer this uncovered, you'd want to take it incredibly slow. But also the thing you would want to know is that this will bubble like lava because it's going to thicken up. And when that thickens and becomes more viscous, it can make a mess and it can burn you. So if you just take, for me in a pan, I just take and invert another pan of the same size over the top. Certainly if you're doing this in a pot, you can use a lid for the pot. Like I said, cover 20 minutes. It's going to reduce down, but it will still retain some moisture and it'll impart back. So once that is done and complete, you can see what the final product is going to look like. So it hangs on the pasta nice. It's got good flavor, good balance. And thank you for watching.